The refugee outpost drifted at the edge of known space, far from trade routes and far from safety. It was built from old cargo modules, broken station parts, and whatever scraps could still hold air. Inside it lived thousands of aliens who had lost their homes in a war they never wanted. The galaxy had already moved on. Only the refugees remained. Elias Mercer lived there too. He was human, an engineer by trade, and officially listed as non-essential support personnel. That label meant little. In reality, Elias fixed anything that broke. Doors, air filters, water lines, power couplings. If it failed, he repaired it. He worked quietly, spoke little, and never complained. Humans were still rare in this sector, and many aliens watched him with cautious eyes. On one dim cycle, as Elias carried a box of tools through the medical shelter, he heard a soft sound. It was not crying. It was worse. It was the sound of someone trying very hard not to cry. Elias slowed his steps. Near the far wall, behind a cracked privacy screen, sat a small alien child. The child's species was known as the Scifi, tall, elegant beings with silver-blue skin and long limbs. But this child was small, thin, and shaking. One of the child's lower limbs was missing. Not recently. The wound was old, badly healed. The child leaned against the wall, watching other children move past, some limping, some carried, some whole. The child said nothing. Just watched. Elias felt something tighten in his chest. A Scifi medic noticed him staring. "There is nothing to be done," the medic said flatly. "The child survived orbital fire. That is already unlikely." "Why no replacement?" Elias asked. The medic's crest flattened. "We tried 3 times. Our prosthetics are rejected. Nerve collapse, system failure, pain beyond tolerance. The child will not survive another attempt." Elias looked back at the child. The small hands were clenched tight, knuckles pale. "What's the child's name?" he asked. The medic hesitated. "Lyra," Elias nodded. He finished his task in silence, but his thoughts stayed with the child long after he left the shelter. That night, Elias could not sleep. The image of Lyra pressed against the wall would not leave his mind. Humans were known for many things in the galaxy: stubbornness, adaptability, emotional attachment. Elias had never thought much about those traits before, but now they burned inside him. The next cycle, he returned to the shelter. Lyra was in the same place. Elias knelt slowly, careful not to frighten the child. "Hello," he said softly. "My name is Elias." Lyra's eyes widened. They were large and dark, filled with fear and curiosity. The child said nothing. "I fix broken things," Elias continued. "May I sit?" After a long pause, Lyra gave a small nod. They sat together in silence. Elias did not reach out, he simply stayed. Finally, Lyra spoke. "You are human." "Yes." "They say humans use rough machines." Elias smiled gently. "Sometimes, but not always." He pointed to his own arm. "This is not perfect either, but it works because it listens to me." Lyra tilted their head, confused. Elias stood. "If you want, I think I can help, but only if you want me to." The child's fingers trembled. "It will hurt." Elias swallowed. "I will do everything I can to make sure it doesn't." That was enough. Permission in its smallest form. Elias requested access to a storage bay that same day. The outpost overseer laughed when he heard what the human planned. "You are not a Scifi engineer," the overseer said. "You are not even a medical specialist." "I know," Elias replied calmly. "I'm just a human." That answer annoyed several officials. It also worried them. Humans had a history of succeeding where logic said they should fail. They gave him limited access, mostly to prove a point. Elias began by observing. He watched how Lyra shifted weight, how the remaining limb moved, how the body compensated. He used no advanced scanners at first, just his eyes, his hands, his instincts. Human engineering often relied on understanding failure first. He studied Scifi biology reports late into the cycle. Their nervous systems were highly sensitive, rejecting rigid control systems. Most alien prosthetics tried to command movement directly. Humans approached problems differently. Instead of control, Elias focused on response. He built slowly, frame first, flexible alloys used in human exploration suits, shock-absorbing layers inspired by old Earth sports equipment. No invasive nerve spikes. Instead, thousands of microsensors designed to learn, not command. Other engineers mocked him. "That will never bond," one said. "It's too simple," said another. Elias ignored them. He talked to Lyra while he worked, about stars, about Earth oceans, about how humans once walked on broken legs with wooden sticks and stubborn will. "You're not broken," Elias told the child one day. "You're just unfinished." When the limb was ready, the shelter fell silent. The Scifi medics watched closely, tension visible in every movement. They expected failure, pain, screaming. Elias knelt in front of Lyra. "If you want to stop, we stop," he said. Lyra nodded, eyes fixed on the limb. Attachment took hours. Elias adjusted every setting by hand. No automation, no rushing. When it was done, sweat soaked his clothes. "Stand when you're ready," he said softly. Lyra placed weight on the limb. Nothing happened. A few medics exhaled in relief. Others looked disappointed. Then the limb adjusted, not suddenly, not forcefully. It shifted, learned, balanced. Lyra gasped. The child stood. One step, then another. The shelter froze. Lyra laughed. It was a small sound, light and unsure, but it echoed louder than any alarm. Tears filled the eyes of several refugees. Even hardened officials looked away. Elias smiled, exhausted. From a hidden observation satellite far above the outpost, sensors recorded everything. The data streamed across space, through secure channels, into the heart of the Scifi capital. On a distant world, a queen stopped mid-step as the image appeared before her. She saw her child, standing, alive and smiling. That same day, royal engines ignited. A queen was coming. And Elias Mercer had no idea. The next cycle began with whispers. They moved through the refugee outpost like quiet wind, passing from shelter to shelter, from medic to engineer, from alien to alien. A human had done what Scifi science could not. A child had walked, not with pain, not with control implants, but naturally. Lyra walked again. Elias noticed the change immediately. Eyes followed him wherever he went. Conversations stopped when he entered a room. Some aliens looked at him with hope, others with fear. Lyra, however, looked at the world differently now. The child no longer stayed near walls. With careful steps at first, then stronger ones, Lyra began to explore the outpost. The limb adjusted each time, tiny movements, quiet corrections. It never forced motion, it listened. Scifi medics ran test after test. No rejection, no nerve overload, no system shock. "It should not work," one of them said again and again, but it did. Elias sat nearby during most checks, making small adjustments with simple tools. He refused to add more control systems. "The limb learns," he explained. "Like the body, like the mind." Some medics frowned. Others watched silently, recording everything. Within days, something unexpected happened. Lyra began to run, not far, not fast, but enough to make several medics shout in alarm. Elias rushed forward, heart racing, but Lyra did not fall. The limb absorbed the motion, adjusted balance, matched the child's excitement instead of fighting it. Lyra laughed, arms wide, running in a small circle before stopping and looking at Elias with pure joy. "I'm fast," the child said proudly. Elias knelt, smiling so hard his face hurt. "Yes," he said, "you are." That joy spread. Other children gathered around Lyra. Some touched the limb carefully. Others asked questions in their own languages. Lyra answered with confidence, standing taller with each word. Hope is a dangerous thing in refugee camps. It spreads faster than fear. Soon, injured aliens came to Elias, missing fingers, damaged joints, old wounds. He turned many away gently. "One step at a time," he said. "Lyra comes first." But word had already escaped the outpost. Merchant vessels passing through the sector carried rumors. A human engineer built living machines. A human cured what advanced alien science could not. Some stories exaggerated, others underestimated. Military networks noticed. On a distant station, analysts studied the data pulled from the shelter's systems. They replayed Lyra's first steps again and again. "No command core," one officer muttered. "No override." "That's the problem," another replied. "It can't be controlled." Human technology was already considered dangerous because of its adaptability. This was worse. This was technology that trusted its user. Trust could not be predicted. Orders were issued quietly. Surveillance increased. Long-range scans focused on Elias Mercer. Back at the outpost, Elias sensed none of this. His world had narrowed to one small child and one growing miracle, but the Sarathi medics were uneasy. "The limb is changing," one told Elias. "Yes," he replied. "It's supposed to." "No," the medic insisted. "It is integrating with her life force pathways. That should not be possible." Elias paused. "Is it hurting her?" The medics shook their heads slowly. "No, it is stabilizing her. Her readings, they are improving." That was when Elias understood the full truth. Lyra had not just lost a limb. The child had been dying. The injury had damaged something deeper. Sarathi bodies were sensitive. Trauma often echoed through their life force systems. Without knowing it, Elias had done more than restore movement. He had given Lyra time. When he told Lyra, the child looked at the limb thoughtfully. "So, it likes me," Lyra said. Elias laughed softly. "Yes, I think it does." The next day, a ship entered the system. No transponder signal, no trade markings, no weapons visible. It moved slowly, deliberately, as if announcing its presence without words. The outpost went on alert. Defense systems powered up. Refugees were moved deeper inside. Elias was pulled aside by the overseer. "What did you do?" the overseer demanded. "I helped a child walk," Elias replied calmly. The overseer stared at him. "You did much more than that." The ship requested docking permission. No demands, no threats, just a single message translated into dozens of languages. "I request entry as a mother, not as a ruler." The Sarathi medics froze. Elias felt a strange chill. A royal vessel. The queen of the Sarathi had come. Panic spread through the outpost. Royal visits did not happen without reason. Refugees bowed, hid, whispered prayers. Lyra noticed the tension. "Why is everyone afraid?" the child asked. Elias knelt beside them. "Someone important is coming." "More important than you?" Lyra asked seriously. Elias smiled. "Much more." The docking bay lights dimmed as the ship connected. The air changed. Even those who had never seen their queen felt her presence. The doors opened. She walked in alone. No guards, no weapons, just flowing robes marked with ancient symbols. Her posture was tall, her face calm, but her eyes searched the room desperately. She saw Lyra. Time seemed to stop. The queen crossed the bay without hesitation. She knelt before the child, hands shaking. "My star," she whispered in her native tongue. "You are alive." Lyra blinked. "Hello," the child said politely. Tears fell freely from the queen's eyes. Only then did she look at Elias. Every sound vanished. He expected anger, accusation, command. Instead, the queen bowed her head. "You are the human," she said quietly. Elias nodded, unsure what else to do. "You gave my child something my people could not," she continued. "You gave her a future," he swallowed. "I just did what I could." The queen looked at the limb. "This device, it is not only technology, it listens." "Yes," Elias said. "So does she." The queen closed her eyes. For the first time in centuries, a Sarathi ruler felt small. Around them, unseen by most, data continued to transmit. Other powers were watching, and they were no longer afraid of the queen. They were afraid of the human who knelt beside a child and changed the rules of the galaxy. The outpost did not return to normal after the queen's arrival. It could not. Her presence changed the air itself. as if gravity had shifted slightly and everyone felt it in their bones. The queen stayed near Lyra. She did not demand a private chamber. She did not summon advisors. She sat on the floor beside her child, touching Lyra's hands, watching every movement of the crafted limb with careful eyes. Elias remained nearby, uneasy but calm. He had faced angry commanders and desperate refugees before. This was different. This was history standing in front of him, breathing softly, afraid for her child. After a long silence, the queen spoke. "You must think us cruel," she said, her voice low. "To hide our own blood among refugees." Elias shook his head. "No, I think you did what you had to." She looked at him then, truly looked. "You understand more than many rulers." Lyra listened quietly, the limb resting against the floor. It made a small adjustment, responding to the child's shift in posture. The queen noticed. "It still adapts," she said. "Yes," Elias replied. "It will keep doing that as Lyra grows." The queen closed her eyes briefly. "Our scientists told me my child would never run. They did not tell me she would fade. They did not want me to carry that weight." Elias felt a heaviness settle in his chest. "The limb helped stabilize her system," he said gently. "I didn't know at first. I only knew something was wrong." The queen nodded. "You saw what others did not." Word spread quickly now, not just as rumor but as truth. The queen had knelt. The human had not been punished. Instead, they spoke as equals. That alone shocked the galaxy. Sarathi advisors arrived within hours, summoned quietly. They formed a respectful distance, watching Elias with open confusion. He was not impressive by appearance. No enhanced body, no noble markings, just a human in worn work clothes with grease-stained hands. One advisor finally spoke. "Explain your method." Elias took a breath. "I didn't try to replace the limb," he said. "I tried to understand the child. Humans don't always build perfect things. We build things that learn." The advisors exchanged looks. "Our technology seeks control," Elias continued. "It tells the body what to do. This limb listens first, then it responds." "That is inefficient," one advisor said sharply. Elias nodded. "At first, but life is inefficient." The queen raised a hand. Silence followed instantly. "You will not dismiss this," she said. "This human saved my child. He saved my line." She turned to Elias. "You must understand what this means. Some will fear you, others will want what you created." Elias met her gaze. "I didn't build it to be owned." The queen's eyes softened. "That answer alone tells me everything." That night, security around the outpost increased. Not because the queen demanded it, but because long-range scans detected unfamiliar movements at the edge of the system. Ships that did not broadcast intent. Ships that watched. Other powers had noticed. Lyra slept peacefully for the first time since the injury. The limb powered down into a rest state, still connected, still listening. The queen stayed awake, sitting beside her child, watching Elias work quietly at a nearby table. "Why do humans do this?" she asked suddenly. Elias looked up. "Do what?" "Help without asking for return." He thought for a moment. "We don't always," he admitted. "But when we do, it's because we remember being helpless." The queen considered this. "My people built empires. We forgot how to kneel." "You remembered today," Elias said gently. She smiled, a rare, fragile expression. Before dawn, an alert sounded. Multiple ships exited warp at the edge of the system. Armed, organized. The outpost went into full lockdown. Advisors rushed to the queen. "They will demand the human," one said, "and the technology." The queen stood slowly. Her calm vanished, replaced by something ancient and dangerous. "They will demand nothing." Elias stepped forward. "If this is because of me—" "It is," she interrupted. "And that is why you will not face it alone." Human defense vessels responded to the alert moments later, fewer in number, less advanced by galactic standards, but they moved with confidence, positioning themselves between the outpost and the incoming fleet. A human commander's voice echoed through the comms. "This is a civilian zone. Withdraw." The opposing fleet did not answer. Inside the outpost, fear spread again, but this time it mixed with something new, trust. Lyra woke to the tension and sat up. What's wrong? The queen knelt immediately. Nothing that concerns you, my star. Lyra looked at Elias. Are you scared? He smiled softly. A little. Lyra considered this, then stood. The limb adjusted instantly. The child walked to Elias and took his hand. Then I'll stand with you, Lyra said. Something shifted in the queen's expression. She turned to her advisors. Remember this moment, she said quietly. This is what the galaxy tried to take from us. Outside, weapons powered up. Inside, a human and an alien child stood side by side, and the galaxy held its breath. The sun rose slowly over the refugee outpost, casting long shadows across the patched metal walkways. For a brief moment, the world seemed quiet, as if the galaxy itself was holding its breath. But peace would not last. The incoming fleet, massive and cold, waited beyond the edge of the system, calculating, probing, ready to strike. They had heard the rumors. A human had done the impossible and they wanted to take it for themselves. Inside the outpost, Elias worked. Not at the limb, not at new machines, but at small, human-made devices that could reinforce the shelters, strengthen airlocks, and give the children safe paths to move in case of attack. Lyra followed him, curious as always. The child's limb had learned so quickly that Elias had begun to trust it to adapt in emergencies. Lyra ran from corridor to corridor, testing every surface, laughing softly, and dodging Elias' gentle warnings. The queen observed them from the central chamber. She had issued instructions to the Sarathi soldiers still loyal to her, but she had kept herself close to Lyra. There was no hiding from what had happened. Her child was alive because of Elias, and the galaxy would not forget it. The first alarm rang. A shadow flickered across the docking bay sensors. Small skirmish craft, lightly armed but fast, slipped through. The outpost shuddered slightly as one of the smaller shuttles attempted to dock without permission. The human defense vessels reacted instantly. They fired warning pulses, electronic barriers that forced the intruders to back off. They're testing us, said one Sarathi officer, her voice trembling. They want to see how quickly we respond. They'll see quickly enough, Elias said quietly. He handed Lyra a small communicator, one that allowed the child to alert him instantly if anything went wrong. Lyra accepted it solemnly, understanding more than most adults would have expected. Minutes later, the first shots hit. Small plasma bolts streaked past the reinforced walls. The outpost shook. Aliens ducked. Refugees screamed. But Lyra did not move. Instead, the child stepped forward, the limb responding seamlessly, adjusting balance, absorbing force, and protecting those around. The child had become a shield without meaning to, instinct and machine working as one. Elias watched, heart pounding. He had built this limb to restore life, not to fight, yet here it was saving lives in ways even he had not predicted. The queen rose. Her robes flowed as she moved, signaling to the Sarathi soldiers. Hold the line, she commanded. Her voice, though soft, carried authority. Protect the human, protect the child, nothing else matters. The attackers were relentless, sending waves of fighters, drones, and long-range weapons. Human vessels fired in coordinated bursts, defending the outpost rather than striking. They never targeted the alien fleet aggressively, only created barriers, shields, and safe zones. Elias realized then what humans were capable of: defense, adaptation, and sacrifice without cruelty. Lyra ran along the corridors, using the limb to leap over debris, helping smaller children to safety. Each time the limb moved, it reacted not like a machine, but like a living partner. The child instinctively knew when to speed up, slow down, and even push against small attacks. One drone slipped past the shields and entered the main courtyard. It was faster than anything Elias had expected. The child saw it and acted before anyone could stop them. Lyra reached the drone, the limb extending a reinforced joint, and shoved it away. The drone spun uncontrollably and crashed. Ilya's mouth fell open. You saved them," he whispered. "I saved everyone," Lyra replied simply, eyes focused, lips tight. The queen watched, pride and awe in her gaze. "This is no longer just survival," she said softly. "This is evolution, and it came from a human." More ships broke through the perimeter. Human pilots coordinated with Ilya's quick repairs, creating temporary shields, blocking entrances, and moving civilians. Lyra's actions became increasingly daring, each movement precise, adaptive, instinctual. The attackers began to realize their mistake. They had thought the human would be vulnerable, easy to intimidate, easy to steal from. They had underestimated the combination of human ingenuity and the bond between a human and an alien child. Ilya's moved to a higher platform to assist with system overrides. Sparks flew as he rerouted power to defensive grids. The queen came with him, walking steadily, moving closer than any Sarathi would normally dare. "You can do this," she said, watching his fingers move over wires and panels. "I trust you." Ilya's nodded, feeling a surge of determination. He would not fail, not now, not when so much depended on his hands, his mind, and his simple human ability to adapt. The battle escalated. Plasma fire scorched walls. Explosions shook corridors. Refugees cowered in safe rooms while Sarathi soldiers fought desperately. And through it all, Lyra ran, jumped, lifted, and guided. Every motion of the limb, every instinctive adjustment made the difference between life and death. Ilya's realized something profound. The limb had not just restored life, it had enhanced it. It was not simply technology. It was understanding, empathy, adaptation. It worked because it mirrored the child's will, not because it forced obedience. Hours passed. The outpost endured. The attackers, frustrated, began to retreat. The human ships, though fewer, had maintained every corridor, every hallway, every life. Ilya's, exhausted, slumped against a wall, watching Lyra check on the youngest refugees. The queen approached him. "You have done more than save a child," she said. "You have reminded my people what humans can do. You have reminded me why hope matters." Ilya shook his head. "I just did what anyone would do." "No," she replied firmly. "Not anyone, a human, that is what makes the difference." The attackers withdrew completely. Scanners confirmed their fleet was leaving the system. No one cheered. There was no celebration. Only silence, heavy with relief and exhaustion. Lyra ran to Ilya's, hands clutching his. "We did it," the child said softly. "Yes," Ilya said. "We did." The queen stood behind them, watching. For the first time in centuries, she did not feel the weight of command alone. She had witnessed humans adapt, fight, and protect without fear or greed. She had seen her child survive because of their courage. The day ended with the outpost intact, refugees safe and enemies gone. But the galaxy had noticed. Word would spread. Humans had not just repaired limbs, they had rewritten the rules of what was possible. Ilias looked at Lyra and smiled tiredly. "You did more than walk today," he said. "You showed everyone what it means to live." The child nodded, the limb flexing naturally. "And you showed me how to be strong." The queen approached, placing a hand lightly on Ilia's shoulder. "You will not leave here unrecognized," she said. "The galaxy must understand what humans are capable of." Ilias shook his head. "I do not want recognition. I want to help more children, more people who cannot survive without help." The queen's eyes softened. "Then you will have it, and more. Because now the future belongs not to those who take, but to those who build, protect, and care." And for the first time since the war, the refugees of the outpost slept without fear. The human engineer had not only saved a child, he had protected an entire community. And in doing so, he had reminded the galaxy of the power of human ingenuity, courage, and heart. The battle was over, but the lesson had only just begun. Across distant systems, alien leaders whispered the same words. A human, A simple human had done what we could not. And the universe would never forget it. The quiet that followed the battle was different from silence after routine operations. It felt alive, charged with something new. Hope, gratitude, and an unspoken understanding spread through the refugee outpost like sunlight through clouds. The aliens who had lived in fear for so long now moved with steadier steps, curious gazes, and whispers of wonder. Elias moved among them as if nothing had changed. He patched small systems, checked air filters, and repaired structural damage caused by the skirmish. But everyone knew it was not only machines he repaired. He had repaired something deeper, the sense that life, no matter how fragile, could continue and thrive. Lyra ran ahead, testing the limb as always. It had adapted fully now. Each step was confident, precise, and instinctive. The child climbed small walls, leapt across debris, and even helped younger children from dangerous corners. Nothing could stop Lyra, not because of strength alone, but because the limb worked with will, not against it. The queen observed them quietly. She had returned to the central chamber, where her child now played among the refugees. She had spent the previous cycles learning from Elias, listening to him explain the limb, asking questions about human engineering, and most importantly, watching the way he treated life with patience and care. Her advisors, once skeptical, had begun to accept a difficult truth. Humans were not merely beings of brute force or unpredictable chaos. They were adaptive, inventive, and compassionate in ways the galaxy often underestimated. They could survive where others failed, and they could build what no one else imagined possible. The queen finally spoke aloud. "Elias Mercer," she said, her voice carrying across the hall, every head turned, every ear straining to hear. "You have not only saved my child, you have reminded my people of what courage looks like, and you have reminded me of what hope means." Elias looked up, surprised at the attention. "I just did what I could," he said softly. Lyra made it happen too." The queen smiled, a rare, open expression of warmth. "You underestimate your gift. You do not see it as we see it." Outside, news traveled quickly. Scouts and communication drones transmitted the story across nearby systems. By the time the queen had rested, word had reached distant worlds. Humans had built a living machine that worked with alien biology. A human had given life where science had failed. A human had rewritten the rules of possibility. Representatives from other species arrived in the following cycles. Some came out of curiosity, others with skepticism, and a few with the intent to take. But none could approach aggressively. The human defense forces, paired with the Queen's loyalists and the adaptive ingenuity of Elias engineering, created barriers both technological and moral. "I did not expect the galaxy to care so much," Elias admitted to the Queen one evening as he adjusted minor calibration settings on the limb. The Queen nodded. "The galaxy notices what it fears and what it cannot control. You are both." Elias shook his head. "I am just one human. I did this for Lyra, for no one else." "Yet you have done more than any army, any fleet, any empire," she said gently. "Because what you built is not just a machine. It is life. It listens. It protects. It adapts. That is power no weapon can match." Lyra approached, holding Elia's hand. The child's steps were sure, the limb now fully integrated. "We should help more," Lyra said simply. "Other children, other people who need us." Elias looked down at the child, pride swelling in his chest. "Yes, that is the plan." The queen placed a hand lightly on Elias' shoulder. "Then you will have support, resources, safe passage. You will not build alone." Elias blinked. I don't want glory, I don't want rank or titles, I just want to help." "That is exactly why you will inspire the galaxy," the queen said. "You are not building for power, you are building for life. That is what makes humans remarkable." Over the following cycles, the outpost transformed. Lyra's limb became the first of many prototypes adapted to other injured refugees, regardless of species. Children who had lost limbs, who had been deemed beyond hope, now ran, climbed, and played. Families smiled again. Adults whispered thanks, often in tones too quiet for Elias to hear fully. The queen worked alongside him, learning from his methods, seeing the humanity behind his designs. She became an advocate for human-led life recovery programs. Her presence brought legitimacy to Elias' work across systems where humans had once been dismissed. Some aliens, still skeptical, approached slowly. They asked questions. They observed quietly, and slowly they began to understand. The human mind did not always rely on technology alone. It relied on creativity, empathy, and adaptability. It relied on understanding life rather than trying to command it. Elias refused accolades. He continued working in his modest quarters, repairing, testing, and teaching. But every so often he would glance at Lyra. The child's laughter, unrestrained and free, reminded him why he persisted. One morning, as the twin suns rose over the outpost, the queen called him to the central chamber. She gestured toward a small statue placed in the hall, a child and an adult kneeling side by side, hands clasped over a crafted limb. It was simple but profound. "This will remind future generations," she said softly, "that even in darkness, humans can create light. That even among despair, humans can inspire hope." Elias shook his head. "I did not do this for statues, I did it to give life back." The queen's smile was steady. "Then it is perfect. Statues do not remember intentions, they remember outcomes. And you changed outcomes today, tomorrow, and for the cycles ahead." Across distant systems, word of the human who built life spread. Ships carrying ambassadors, scholars, and engineers arrived. The galaxy began to see humans not as mere conquerors or anomalies, but as collaborators, innovators, and healers. They were species to be respected, not feared. Years passed. Lyra grew stronger, the limb fully integrated, adapting as the child matured. Each step was confident, each action instinctive. The child became a symbol, not only of resilience, but of what humans could accomplish when guided by empathy and ingenuity. Elias continued his work quietly, without fanfare. He built more limbs, repaired other injuries, and trained assistants, both human and alien. He shared knowledge not to gain power but to ensure life could flourish wherever it was endangered. The queen remained close, watching her child and Elias. Her people slowly healed from the scars of war, learning lessons that had long been forgotten. The galaxy watched, and slowly it began to change. And in the quiet moments, Elias would look at Lyra and remember the first day he had seen the child behind the screen, afraid and alone. He had built a limb, yes, but what had truly been built was hope. And that hope spread quietly and steadily, across stars, systems, and species. The galaxy would not forget that a human, with nothing but skill, patience, and heart, had not only restored life but had inspired change that no weapon, no fleet, and no empire could achieve. Years later, children of all species walked freely, played without fear, and lived fully because a single human had chosen to care. Statues would remember, history would record, and future generations would tell the story of Elias Mercer, not as a conqueror, not as a ruler, but as a human who dared to see life where others only saw limits. And the queen, watching her child run through the corridors of a rebuilt outpost, knew the truth. The galaxy's future was not just in powerful fleets or brilliant scientists. It was in humans who chose to build, to heal, and to protect. Elias looked at Lyra, smiled, and whispered softly, "Let's see how many more lives we can save." And the child laughed, running ahead, the limb moving perfectly, instinct and heart working together. The galaxy held its breath once more, but this time, in awe, hope, and quiet wonder. Life had returned, and humans had reminded the universe why they were extraordinary.